to day 2-1 of the round of 48 of Code. I'm Wolf, and of course with me is Caldor today. And I'll let you introduce our players, Caldor.
Our first game has already started, and we're currently at the top right with our player in the red. We have the prime player, and it is BBoongBBoong.
Yep, otherwise known as B4, nickname coming from the fact that capitalizes all the B's in his ID.
And his opponent is starting at the bottom left right now. We have currently in the blue our Protoss player, and this is the one and only Vampire.
Yeah. Vampire, a very scary MBB player, just recently qualifying for the OSL as well, just yesterday. And been doing well in prelims, you know, to qualify for Code and for another tournament as well in Korea, competing with some of the toughest players in the world, especially, you know, the other qualifier, for example, you know, that we saw yesterday. It's playing against some players who are just in Code S, actually, you know. It's playing against all sorts of players, not just Code B players.
And just judging from the shape that BBoongBBoong is in just lately, Vampire definitely has to bring his A-game today. This is not going to be an easy match for either one of them. And of course here on Cloud Kingdom, our first map in the best of 3, we once again have the early pool for BBoongBBoong. Well, not early, but the standard pool before hatch, and it has already been scouted out by Vampire. Had a quick look in his main base, wanted to see exactly if there's going to be a gas or what the Zerg player is going to do right now. Always if you want to start with this Forge first, or even with this Nexus first that we currently see from Vampire, you have to make sure that your opponent is not starting with a very early pool and tries to Zergling rush.
Yeah, you cannot allow that. And also when you probe scout, you can deny the hatchery every time. In this case, he's not going to make a pylon to block the natural because he saw pool first. It's not going to be as useful to deny, and also he needs to get that forage up back at his main base as soon as possible. Interestingly enough, making it on 16 rather than 17, getting it up a little bit faster just to make it, you know, a little bit safer in the long run. Getting his pylon up now as well. And, you know, we've talked about this time and time again, but on maps like these, the newer maps, in Protoss versus Zerg, it's kind of the Protoss's job to make the life of the Zerg annoying while he tries to take his third. The Zerg is going to take a third no matter what these days. In most cases, you very rarely see a 2-base Zerg all in. So the Protoss is going to have to put some sort of pressure on the Zerg to try to punish him, try to make him make roaches and Zerglings rather than drones, and just make sure he gets the roach warren up that he can't drone too heavily.
It's always a bit of a problem when, as a pros player, when you play a bit... Well, when you start with only Forge first, your problem in the early game is that you are rather passive and you don't have too many options of actually attacking your opponent. So all you have is the probe that is on the map early on to block hatches. You can try to place down a pylon somewhere, but for the Zerg it's really important to chase down this one probe, and then you're able that... Well, you're kind of safe. You kind of know there is nothing going on. You have the Overlord in position at your opponent's choke point. Have a quick look at what exactly is coming out. And with the new Overlord speed, we always have Zerg players scouting out the main base of the Protoss and checking exactly what's going on.
Yeah, we've seen recently, especially, people having 2 Overlords in position in most cases, depending on the map, depending on how much dead space there is, to go in and check. Obviously, on this map, you can see the Overlord is just hovering over the gateway. You guys already got a shot of it, making sure that, you know, basically seeing, okay, is he getting +1? I can float over here and check his gases soon. You see another pylon going down to help this wall. If he's getting +1 right now, very quickly at the forge, we'll see if he decides to chrono boost that at all. He's actually going to take double gases at his natural, so he's going up to 4 gases very quickly here. And this does not actually really indicate a timing attack so much as a tech build. And BBoongBBoong, as a result, he's going to want to see that 4th gas. I believe with his Overlord, he can already see the 3rd one. Yeah, he definitely can. He can see the 3rd one, so he's going to want to see that 4th one pretty soon, but the 3rd one even indicates likely a 4th, so...
He can also see the Forge and the +1 attack timing, so the Overlord is in the perfect spot, and at the same time we have BBoongBBoong spreading his creep, and of course it's going to be the robotics here.
Yeah.
He's probably starting to go once again for this Immortal push that we've seen so many times. And just lately a few Zerg players, especially the TSL Zergs, tried to mix it up a little bit. They are starting to counter it with actually early drop play, which is one of the options that you have. In general, when you're defending against an Immortal push, it's important to either set up flanks, you can try to start run-by attacks so that your opponent is delayed and has to move back in order to defend. But it's really, really crucial that you are prepared for it, that you know that it's coming, and yet you start to use one of the means that you have in order to stop an immortal push, as it is so powerful.
Yeah, it's kind of basically right now it's the scariest thing as Zerg can face. 14 drones on the way for BBoongBoong, by the way, as Vampire continues to add these gates. But you're right. I mean, you have to do something. If you don't know about it, you can't take the necessary precautions to hold. And this build is so flexible. That's why pros are using it right now, because if you get any hint or any feeling like, oh, I don't want to actually attack with this, then you can actually very safely take a third, because the Immortals allow you to defend against Roach aggression very easily. You're already teching towards Colossi if you need those. We see a Warp Prism already on the way very quickly. Another Sentry being produced right now, and this is going to put him up to 4. And I think we're just going to see a 4 Sentry drop with these 4 gateways. He's going to force field the ramp and just warp units in the main. This is a very scary thing for a Zerg player to deal with.
It's going to be interesting to see if he's actually still trying to go for the Immortals. I rather guess so. There is the Immortal number 1. And this is a style that we saw in the early stages of when the Immortal drop first, the Immortal push itself first developed. Protoss players try to use an early Warp Prism in order to harass the Zerg, in order to just shut down everything that he can do, any kind of aggression, make sure that he has to concentrate on his bases, and at the same time they would just muster up all these units and try to go for this attack. And here we already have 4 additional gateways. He will be on 7 in total.
He is going to follow this up quite heavily. The difficulty of this drop on this map is the creep is already spread. He's not going to be undetected. And the units are moving down, actually, across the map. So this could be bad for BBoongBoong if he's out of position, because he needs to stop this right away. And oh, it looks like he's actually just going to use this initially here to deny creep, which is not what I expected to see with 4 sentries in there. But like you said, the follow-up is quite intense with the amount of gates he's adding. The Immortal pressure is so scary. It looks like he's trying to just kill some Lings here.
This is just mean. He's just baiting him a little bit, and those sentries, they're like the strawberry that you see when you're really, really hungry, and
yeah,
you just have a craving, but you can't eat it because the Protoss player is taking it away every single time that you close in.
It's like a really carrot in front of the horse.
Yeah, exactly.
Something like this. It's terrible. Oh, this is when things get really scary. He's warping in Stalkers now. The sentries have built a lot of energy.
And we talked about the Warp Prism that is now just a major part of most of the Protoss pushes that we saw lately, and this just makes them so strong, especially with this timing where Zerg does not have anti-air yet that they could use to shut it down.
And the first forces are going to have to be dropped now. There they go. He denies the Roaches. The Zerglings only are going to fight here. +1 armor is done, so he's got 1/1 upgrades here. The Ling's not able to do very much damage. The Roach is not able to get into position, though. Look at how great those force fields are. Very little overlap.
He only killed Zerglings, and he's currently running out of energy, so BBoongBoong might be down in supply right now, in army supply that is, but all the supply that he's building up at this point, that's already counted into the overall supply here, that is something that Vampire will have a problem facing, because he's running out of energy on these sentries.
Yeah, he's getting a little bit low. The Warp Prism moving forward here. This is a very critical moment as the Roach count now up at 36. There are 3 Immortals here, not getting any additional upgrades. There's no transition at home. Here we go. The Immortals doing a ton of damage. The Zealots helping keep the Lings back.
At the same time, though, we have a lot of Immortals here. 3 in total. He needs more Zerglings. He's building them right now, trying to buy time. But without the sentries, it's definitely a problem for Vampire here. The Roaches, they close the distance, go in again, snipe the first Immortal, try to snipe the second, and they take down so many units. Vampire is dropping in supply, and this push is immediately shut down by BBoongBoong.
Yeah, it's definitely too much. The Immortals are falling now, and BBoongBoong, you can see why he was a Codex player. You can see why he's chosen so much in the Team League. GG. With the 100 supply lead, Vampire, no Twilight Council, no third base of any kind. Has to quit there, and well timed, but BBoongBoong just, he had the production, he did not miss a beat.
And BBoongBoong is just proving once again that he is such a strong player. In the up and down matches, he fell short to Ace. Ace was able to advance with Marine King into Code S, and BBoongBoong not quite able to make it, but it was so close, and we saw just a few seconds ago why.
Yeah, really well done. In general, I feel like BBoongBoong is one of the most underrated Zerg players we've ever had. He's starting to get a little bit more recognition these days, but he's not there yet. He fell from the up and down matches. He's going to try to fight his way back in there. If he wins this match, he'll at least have that possibility for himself. If you win today, then you move on to the up and down matches at least. If you lose, though, for example, if Vampire loses here, he's going to be out of the GSL, have to requalify again next season.
The next game is definitely going to be one where Vampire has to prove that he's up to the challenge, but this is, as we mentioned earlier, a really tough match for him because BBoongBBoong is a great player. Vampire, on the other hand, you pointed out how he was able to qualify yesterday, and he's also pretty strong, but the thing is, against the Zerg player, it's hard for most Protoss. Nearly every Protoss player that I'm talking to is kind of a little bit afraid of Zerg. Even though they have very strong pushes in their arsenal, they seem to be afraid that if they make one small misstep, that the Zerg player will be able to take advantage of it and just completely obliterate their forces.
Yeah, I mean, the sentries, once they ran out of energy, that push really relies on the sentries. He did it with a little bit less sentries than you might normally have with that type of attack because it was so fast. He hit with 1-1. He didn't go with Blink. Sometimes like you see Blink Observer with +2. He went 1-1.